Hello and welcome back to Believers as Academy. In today's topic of the day discussion, we will be once again discussing about Kerala for its another biggest feat, and this time it is not with respect to literacy rate, but it's with respect to how poverty is being treated in the state, which has pretty much set an example for the entire country. Recently, the November 1st, 2025, the Chief Minister of the Kerala, Mr. Pinarayi Vijayan, is planning to declare that the entire state, the state of Kerala, is going to be free from poverty, extreme poverty condition, right? And this will be the very first instance, and it is going to be India's first state to declare that extreme poverty free. And this is something which is very important to be studied, because in consideration with respect to the India's social development journey, this achievement which is done by Kerala is another added milestone, and this sets examples for other country or other states to show that even state governments, if plan properly, or if they make sure that they execute, or for that matter implement all the government schemes efficiently, that extreme poverty, which is something so stigmatic, so strong, and so rigid that many states consider that this is highly important or let's say highly difficult to cater to, is also solvable, right, through inclusive and decentralized governance. So Kerala has given another example. It has create, or it has become a role model to show that through inclusivity and through structural decentralized governance, even something as difficult and as hard as extreme poverty can also be eradicated. So hence it becomes absolutely important. So let's try and understand few things with respect to Kerala as to what this poverty elevation is, the meaning, the modern approach, and also we will try and see that what helped Kerala specifically to achieve this particular feat, and also we will try and understand various parameters that are considered to declare a state as poverty free in the first place, and also in the end we will try and understand the national significance. So let's begin. So, talking about the major programs of, or let's say the major goals of this particular program. So, the agenda was very simple: to identify the families from the grassroots, for which door to door census was also conducted. And this was pretty much done in the worst hit areas, especially the chronic poverty areas. And help was provided through support, especially in development, or especially in making sure that help was rendered in housing, healthcare, food, and also overall livelihood. And this to enable sustainable income and social inclusion. So sustainable income and social inclusion are the two important pillars as to what we have to consider to address the modern day poverty. So that's what even Kerala did, which we will be seeing in the further slides. And this particular initiative was earlier launched in 2021 after the LDF government formed its government for the second term. And then, in fact, this was the first ever cabinet decisions which was taken by the LDF government after the election. And the ambition of this particular program was to identify, rehabilitate, and also rectify the problems with respect to those families who are facing severe economic distress. And the main focus was to make sure that this will help in the long term upliftment of the people, and not just in terms of making sure that they are getting the welfare handouts, or let's say it's not just about giving them money, or let's say some aid right in the very first instance, but also making sure that they are empowered, that they themselves can make improvements for their own life, making sure that they can pull themselves out of this poverty circle. So now, what is this poverty elevation? So if we have to try and understand the meaning, the conventional meaning of what poverty alleviation is. It is those efforts which are required to remove deprivation and ensure access to basic needs like food, housing, education, healthcare, and even to provide income security to the family or the people. However, this definition falls short in trying to address the modern day poverty that we see today. So, hence, the modern day poverty, we have to understand it is multi-dimensional. And earlier, the poverty conditions limiting itself to food, housing, education now has kind of expanded to various dimensions, right? So, hence, the primary focus should be on empowerment and not charity, because through charity, all these problems like the problems related to food, the problem related to housing, education, healthcare, and even to some extent, right, the income security, maybe by providing 2000 monthly basis to those households or those persons probably who do not have the work. So all of these things are probably possible through charity of the government. But will this empower the people on the long run is the biggest question. So hence, the modern day problems or the modern day poverty alleviation programs should mostly focus on empowering the citizens to make sure that actions are necessitated or actions are brought in which involves livelihood creation, and also to bring out access to social services, and even mostly to engage them in community participation, so that overall it affects the entire community and also the people living in that, right? And all of this to make sure that it helps any particular state on a longer run, so that the people are made self sufficient, so that they are pretty much dependent on themselves and not on the governments for the charity. So now, what helped Kerala achieve this? Because now we have understood what the modern day problem, or let's say modern day poverty problems are. So now, how did the Kerala government try to achieve this? Because since we are talking about Kerala as a role model for all the other states in the country, and this also can be an example of how active federalism is in play, especially in India. So, hence, we'll have to see what helped Kerala in achieving this particular feat that it has achieved today. So, the first thing is the decentralized governance, right? Because if we see the entire country, Kerala is very famous for how active the local self government is, especially the panchayats, right? The local panchayats, and even the local bodies, right? Even those implementing agencies, because we're talking about finding people door to door, right? Conducting census, conducting active surveys where people used to map each and every panchayats, and they used to not particularly leave even a single household, and also used to kind of identify all the poor families in that particular local panchayats, and making sure that no crack is left in terms of how these houses or poor families were targeted or mapped. So this is one of the first and important thing, having a very strong decentralized governance. Next is the human development base, because Kerala is famous for the literacy rate. In fact, it has over 96 percentage of universal literacy, and also it has the even in terms of healthcare, the state government has also done amazing. I mean, it has shown amazing figures even in terms of healthcare as well. And even Kerala very recently has become the first state to be digitally literate in the entire country, right? So this human development of the state obviously is directly related to how people are now aware with respect to their basic facilities, or I can say that they are pretty much aware with respect to their basic amenities or the welfare schemes that they are supposed to get. So, in fact, if we see, the people right now are aware because of the education that they have gotten right now, and thus the high literacy rate, or let's say people being digitally literate, also has contributed immensely to the Kerala's achievement, and that also is something that we have to keep in mind. And whatever Kerala has achieved today as becoming the non or let's say the completely poverty free state, the first initial step has started by making sure that the state is highly literate, and also the universal healthcare is also assured. So once when these two pillars, in fact these two things have formed the pillars on which the Kerala has right now stood on this particular state of becoming the poverty free state in the entire country. And third important point is the strong welfare infrastructure, especially the public distribution systems, even the social pensions, the housing infrastructure, welfare schemes, the health schemes, right, which made sure that it reached every family without any problems. And fourth is the community participation. So certain important schemes, like for example Kudumbashri, the self-help group women scheme in Kerala, right, and also the NGOs that has played an immense role in bridging the gap between the government and the people, especially in creating the awareness, and also to make sure that people are brought in to enroll in certain welfare schemes which probably people did not know. And also these NGOs and these self-help groups have created a lot of efforts to educate people about all these welfare schemes, right? And also at the end of the day, this also is one of the helping hand, probably the invisible helping hand in Kerala's success story of making it poverty free. Last but not the least, it is the multi-sector integration. So various schemes from various departments which have worked together, that is the health, education, and even housing and employment. Because if you see, all these are very essential in ensuring that the basic needs of a particular family or a person is met. Because only when a person is ensured that whenever he has any illness, or let's say whenever he needs some sort of hospitalization, that can he get hospitalized, right, and is this affordable, and how easy the access for the nearest healthcare facility is. So all of this covers under the assured healthcare infrastructure in a particular state. And coming to the education, it makes sure that every person, every child has the right to go to schools, and also it is about the easy accessibility and the easy way, or let's say easy no, easy is not the word, but it pretty much talks about how easy is it for the children in the state to go to schools and make sure that they continue their schooling, right? It also depends on the school infrastructure, the schools, probably various other facilities that are provided in the school, especially the any additional features like midday meals, right, all of those things. And talking about the housing, if there are any particular schemes in the state government of Kerala which assures basic house, or let's say even giving some subsidies, or let's say giving some loan intervention, or let's say collateral free loans for housing, and at the end of the day the employment, right? So all these things, all these various multi-sector schemes has to definitely work simultaneously together to ensure that the ultimate result and the end result is that the state becomes extreme poverty free. So which is what or that is what we have seen in Kerala's case also, right? So moving on to the next, it is about the parameters which are required for declaring a state extreme poverty free. So what are the parameters? So first is the economic security, means no family below minimum income or consumption level. A particular minimum income level is set, and the first parameter is to ensure that no family inside the state or in that panchayat level is below this particular minimum income level that they are assured of. And also it talks about the minimum consumption level, even in terms of what they eat, what they consume, right, even in terms of the services and even the goods. And next is the food security, the universal access through PDS or any other equivalent sources. So this is also considered. And next is the facility in terms of how the housing is met, especially the permanent housing for all identified families. And then talking about the health and education, availability of 100% access to basic healthcare and also schooling for everyone. And talking about the livelihood, at least one income source per household. It has to ensure that at least one person in the household is earning. And next is the social inclusion, full coverage of marginalized sections, because poverty elevation doesn't just only mean that you provide money or just give some guarantee schemes that ensures some, let's say, assured sum by the end of the month, but it is also to make sure that those identified sections, especially marginalized sections, are socially included. And last but not the least, the verification, because how often that the government involves in auditing or checking whether the implementation is happening properly or not. So hence verification is also part and parcel of one of the parameters. Hence third party audit confirming that zero extreme poverty is also witnessed. So hence when I say the parameter required for declaring a state an extreme poverty free, so these are the important parameters. One is that the economic security of the family must be ensured along with the food security. Also, the housing facility must be ensured alongside health and education. Most importantly, the household as well. And also, last but not the least, the social inclusion and the verification must also be done. Now, next is the national significance. So, what is this particular achievement given for the nation? First and foremost thing is it sets a benchmark for other Indian states. Obviously, it sets an example as to how the local self governments can play its part in ensuring that it not only rules its people but empowers the people so that they create a life for themselves which can transform their entire trajectory from becoming poor to probably ultimately to make sure that the state is seeing a net zero, or let's say zero poverty level, right, from poor to zero poverty level. So this is one of the biggest benchmark, one biggest example. And this also aligns with the sustainable development goals one, to end poverty in all forms everywhere. And this also reinforces Indian federal model of a social development because of how one particular state is performing, and this definitely talks about the federal model of the country. And it also highlights the need for updated national poverty data, because the present data that we have was last released in 2011. So this also is a call, it gives a clarion call to be to the government to update the national poverty data once again. And last but not the least, it demonstrates that poverty eradication is possible even through decentralized planning, right? So that's all for this particular video. Even before we end the video, let's understand the final summary as to what the big takeaway from this video is. First and foremost thing is that poverty eradication is not just about income, but about dignity, access, and opportunity. So this is the biggest takeaway, considering the modern approach or the modern poverty that it demands. Right? It is not just about ensuring a particular sum for this particular family, but to make sure that the dignity, access, and also the opportunity of the particular family or the marginalized community is increased. Next is the decentralized governance and targeted welfare can deliver measurable results. So this is also another big takeaway, that decentralized, or let's say the local self-governments, its active role in how it can make sure that the welfare programs are reached to the people through targeted approach, and even that can deliver results which are this big. And then last but not the least, Kerala provides a replicable model for the rest of India, a blend of policy precision and human empathy. So it's not just the Kerala story, probably it can become the India story as well if the governments responsible take everything seriously and make sure that ultimately the priority is the people, to make sure that they are working on the welfare of the people than something else, right? So that is all for this particular video. Signing off, this is Madan Gopal. Have a wonderful day.